with style, sell with Sue. It's your move.
Well, hello, my friends. Thanks for joining me for another episode of No Place Like Home. And I hope to give you some interesting information, some quick tips. And I'm just, things come up every week with my clients, with me talking to other agents, with hearing about legal cases. And I just wanted to have a safe place I could pass them along to you, the consumer, the home buyer, the home seller. These little tips and things of interest. At least I think they're pretty interesting. So I'm passing them along. And, I was in my car and I like listening to podcasts as I'm driving around, which I seem to do a lot. And I was listening to Joel Osteen the other day, and he always starts off his podcast. Well, I like to start with something funny. And I thought today I might like to start with something funny, but it's not a joke. This is a real thing that happened. It's about drinking milk. Well, let me just ask you a bit of trivia. How fast do you think you could drink a glass of milk? If you had a cup of milk, how fast do you actually think you could drink it? Do you know there's a Guinness record? Yeah, a Guinness World Record for drinking a glass of milk the fastest. And it is held by a guy named Andre. And he was able to drink a glass of milk through a straw in 4.88 seconds. You hear that? 4.8 seconds to drink a glass of milk. You might want to go home and try it. That could be a fun game around the dinner table tonight. But being speedy drinking milk did not happen to help an agent who was caught drinking milk out of somebody's fridge when he was showing a house. And this is a true story. You may have heard it on the news. Agent out in BC was meeting his clients at a house. He had arrived first. He went into the house, which we often do as agents. I love to go in, get the lay of the land. I'll turn on all the lights, make sure everything is ready, put down a toilet seat if need be. However, he said he was thirsty, so he went to the kitchen. But he opened up the fridge, he took out the carton of milk, and he drank from it right from his mouth. Didn't look for a glass. He said he was thirsty, did not get water. So he opened the fridge, took a swig of milk from the carton, and then put it back in the refrigerator. Well, later, the sellers were checking back on their security footage and saw this. And do you know he was fined $20,000 for doing that? And I'm sure his business fell apart. So there's two lessons that we can take away from this. Okay, first of all, when it comes to rules and regulations and realtors being ethical, if you have a problem, there always is a real estate counsel that the consumer can go to and ask for help and advice. And number two, when you're in someone's house, you never know if you might be on camera. And more than ever nowadays. Now, legally, I understand you're not supposed to, there can't be any sound on a camera, but you never know what happens. So I always tell all my buyers when we go in, it's okay to ask questions, it's okay to talk, but don't disclose anything that's unfavorable that you wouldn't want the sellers to by chance hear. And certainly don't say anything like, I need to have this house. Let's buy it right away. So we always wait till we go outside for that. Um, and then on the last episode, if you didn't hear it, tune in. I was going to show some acreage properties, and in one of them, somebody had died. And I was thinking about that a little bit more too, and I thought I might pass along good for people to know because what if somebody dies in the house? You know, the natural causes, murder, suicide. What if somebody dies in the house? Does the seller and the agent have to disclose that? Well, I've done research over the years, and because many years ago I worked in an office where we did sell a house where somebody died, and we all looked into this and discovered that in Manitoba and Quebec, you are required to disclose if there's been a death in the property. But Ontario, hey, it's buyer beware, and most of the other provinces. Now, remember that buyer beware, caveat emptor. does put the onus of a lot of things on the buyer. So you can't just rely on a feature sheet or what another agent tells you. If things are concerning to you, like if you really don't want to live in a house where someone has died, that is something that you need to ask and make sure you get a proper answer. Now, you could ask, so if you're my buyer, I could ask the listing realtor, hey, by the way, has anyone died? And they could respond and say, my seller has directed me not to say anything about this, not to answer, which will assume means that somebody did die, even if they don't want to disclose it. But a seller might not want to disclose that because it can stigmatize the property. So, if you're the listing agent, you're on the side of the seller. If you're a buying agent, I'm on the side of my buyer. And so there's something that I often like to do if I have interest in the house. I will pick up the phone and talk to the other agent and just, get a interest of anything else that they want to tell me. But a really good question to ask is there anything else I should know? Or even, are there any other questions I should be asking? Because sometimes there are other questions, but the other side won't willingly tell you. So, anyways, keep that in mind. And speaking of death, I wonder if anyone listening has ever lived in a haunted house. Now, if you lived in a haunted house, do you think you should disclose that? Well, I don't think this comes up every day. However, this case did come up in New York years ago, and they have a Ghostbusters ruling that came out of a house that was haunted being sold, and it was not disclosed to the buyers. They took it to court, and the seller argued, hey, it's up to the buyer to beware, caveat emptor. But the buyer rebutted, how can you tell if a house is haunted? This is not something you can see as you're walking through the house. You don't have a home inspector that's also also an expert in ghost hunting. And if you live in a haunted house, anyways, here's my question. Do ghosts stay with the house or do they go with the people? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so just the things that we think about when we're sitting around talking about real estate. So I did hear, and I have heard several times, a wonderful speaker from the Real Estate Insurance Exchange. These are the people who go to court when cases come up. And speaking of disclosure and what you need to disclose, um, he's in favor of disclosing versus trying to keep things a secret if you're selling a house. For example, he told us about a recent case in Calgary where the sellers, they had a flood in their home and it was fixed according to, like with the help of their insurance policy and stuff. And so when the agent went to list the home, the seller asked, do we need to disclose that the house did have a flood and we did fix it? Now the agent did his due diligence and asked the broker, and since, according to the Real Estate Council, which protects consumers, do we need to disclose this? If something has been, fixed professionally, no, you don't have to disclose it. There's no reason to because the problem doesn't exist anymore. And so they did not disclose that the house had been flooded. However, some people bought it, and within 3 months, their young daughter found herself in hospital. She was deathly allergic to mold. So, although it had been fixed and nobody knew that mold was lingering in the walls, in old drywall, in old wood, etc., the child suffered, majorly from that, was in the hospital. So, the buyers sued the sellers, and this went to court. And the judge said that silence when there is knowledge. So if you don't say anything when you know it, and there is non-disclosure, that is actionable. And they were actually, I don't know how much they were fined for that, but they ruled in favor of the buyers. So if you know something, it's advisable to tell it. And if something got fixed, don't warranty it and say it's remediated, or don't say it in any way that implies you're going to warranty it. You can say that we had an issue and it was fixed, and here's who fixed it for sure. But don't imply any kind of standard that you can't back up yourself, or you might be held responsible for paying for any future problems. Although he did say that you can say something has been remediated if it has to do with marijuana or a house that had a marijuana problem, because that's officially remediated. So you should, as a seller, be willing to disclose. And listen, even if you don't, and even if you decide, no, I don't want to, when someone buys your house and they get to know the neighbors are going to tell you the history of the house. So, things have a way of coming out. So it's best, honesty is the best policy. Try not to hide anything. And also, when you do disclose things, when you disclose something you didn't have to, but you just want to be upfront, it establishes kind of a credibility on the other side, and deals won't collapse because of it. More than ever, I have noticed deals collapsing. And over 20 years, I've never seen so many deals actually collapse due to many issues, but we don't want that. That's unfavorable for everybody, including the seller, the buyers, the realtors. Yeah, it's just not good for anybody. I also am going to share a little note about real property reports, which seem pretty commonplace to me and when I'm talking to people who are in the industry. But I showed a house earlier today and this came up and just was a good reminder. Not everybody who's not in the industry knows, oh yeah, I know all about real property reports, or RPRs as they are called. So I just want to tell you something that will really help, a good piece of information. If you are buying a house or a condo that's a bare land condo, those properties both will come with a real property report. And that's like the survey on the property, the house, the exterior, anything that's on the property, where the fences are, if there's a garage, even air conditioning, which I did on social media last summer. If you put in air conditioning and it sticks out of the side of your house, you now are going to need to update your real property report. And in fact, I'm going to tell you what it says on our standard contract in Alberta at 10.2. The term, this is what it says, that closing documents will include a RPR showing the current improvements on the property according to the Alberta Land Surveyors Association Manual of Standard Practice. So you have a standard of practice that will protect you. And it has to have evidence of municipal compliance or non-conformance, and confirming the seller's warranties about the land and the buildings. It doesn't apply if there's no structures to the land, etc. So we have a term in the contract that protects our buyers and makes sure that they are allowed to view this document. And it's an important document that comes along with any contract. However, in the house that I showed today, and I have seen this before on other properties as well, in the private remarks, the agent said that the owners of this house had put in air conditioning and that they did not update their real property report, and that whoever wants to buy it should just scratch out the part on 10.2 and not have the updated real property report. Now, this is just something that bothers me. I'm not saying it's a standard or a rule, but a real property report needs to be updated if you're selling the house. This is part of the seller's due diligence when they're getting ready to sell. Now, I don't know if it's the seller who didn't want to do it or if the agent that said, okay, it's no problem. Also, lazy or ill-equipped agents might advise, oh no, we don't have to. We'll just tell people to scratch that out. Well, I don't like that. A real property report, it's going to be maybe 500, maybe between $500 and $1,000. But it affirms and confirms what exactly is on the property, and that nothing is out of place, that there are no encroachments, that there's no problems that my buyer is maybe going to, get stuck with fixing. Now, the sellers may be all on the up and up and it's just the air conditioner, but I don't know the sellers. So why are you taking something that protects my buyers out of the contract? And let's just go down that rabbit hole for a minute, because if the seller just can't be bothered to get a new real property report, what else didn't they bother doing? This house, it was, I mean, it wasn't disastrous, but it wasn't clean. There were cobwebs all over the ceiling. So they couldn't bother to do a fresh coat of paint. They didn't have the place cleaned. Okay, and that's fine. Any listing can be as the seller has the listing. But if I'm representing the buyer, don't be offended if I reduce some of my offer price because now I need to go get a real property report, or my buyers will. My buyers are going to need to clean the house. They're going to have it repainted. It's just they need to take these things into consideration. And even if they're not trying to consciously give a certain impression, you need to realize that the way that you have your property listed, it tells a story to my buyers and to me. And I don't know you, so the story may or may not be true. But if I come in and I know I need to cross this out, the place hasn't been cleaned, you didn't bother to paint, I'm going to be very conscious of every little thing that comes up. I'm going to be suspicious because you're telling me this story. Versus, like this REX speaker was talking about, if the seller discloses, if they, took the pains to clean in the corners, if they had their property professionally painted and they're trying to put their best foot forward, maybe they've disclosed, and when I say disclosures, those things don't have to be written in the general public comments. We have a place for realtors to put private comments. So even in the private comments, so if my buyers are interested, there's further bits of information I need to know. But if they say, look, the sellers haven't used the dishwasher for 4 years, so it might not work, although it comes with the house. I'd rather read that on the listing than have my home inspector come in and go, this dishwasher doesn't work at all, and you didn't know that. Or even if they're, in Calgary, lots of times at the end of the winter season, many homeowners have attic rain where you have this little bit of yellow discoloration coming through the fans, through vents in certain parts of your home. This is not a big problem. It's quite common, and it can be fixed. But if the sellers disclosed, hey, we had some attic rain, we put more insulation in the attic, or we had it cleaned. Now I know, now I'm not suspicious if I see a bit of a yellow drop in the bathroom ceiling, or even, the house had hail damage 4 years ago. And so the roof has been repaired because of that with insurance, and some parts of the siding have been replaced. It just makes people feel more comfortable. The story is that the seller is being open, that they're being preemptive, and that they're telling you everything that they would want to know if they were buying a house. So my advice always is to try to make the best possible impression that you can. Take the care as if you were buying the house. And I wish agents would give their sellers that kind of advice. And if they don't, or if the sellers don't want to take it, of course, that's their prerogative. Don't be offended if we are going to be critiquing everything and be very detailed in our home inspections and, asking for some influence over the price when we're offering on the property as well. So I hope that will help anybody be more effective if they're thinking of listing a house. Yes, those things make a difference. And just be aware that you are telling a story with the way that your house shows. So what else do I want to talk about? Oh, I want to talk about something I love. So I've called this podcast No Place Like Home, and I thought I should write a poem about No Place Like Home. Hey, wait a minute. I bet there is a poem called that. And guess what? I did find a poem online and I liked it. How often do you get read a poem to as you are listening to a podcast? It's a short one, so let me tell it to you, and maybe you can tell me if you like it as well. It's called No Place Like Home, and there was no author to it. I apologize. Snowflakes under soft orange lights, walks along the water on snowy winter nights, sneaking kisses under the moonlit sky, giggling and whispering as we say goodbye, holding hands as we walk through the dark, knowing life won't always be a walk in the park. Looking over and seeing your smile makes me feel less alone, and I tell myself, there's no place like home. Ah, I loved that. I hope you love that too. And I think it gives that feeling and brings home the reminder that feeling like home is not necessarily about the four walls around you or what color they are or how big or how small or what neighborhood your house is in. It's a feeling of love and being there together. And I saw a social media post by Dr. Amen, and he said, in this post, and if you haven't looked him up, he talks a lot about the brain, and he said that studies show that just taking 20 minutes of uninterrupted time with you and your child does a world of difference. It builds their self-esteem, it creates that feeling of love and acceptance. And I have to agree, and I am thankful for the reminder. I remember seeing on Oprah years ago that she was talking to, I think, Maya Angelou, and they said, when your children, when your family walk into a room, don't just say hi and put up your hand like you're bothering me. I haven't got time now. Hey, don't just ignore people, but just stop what you're doing for 5 seconds and say, hello, hi, how are you? I see you. I'm glad that you're here. And I appreciated that word of advice and definitely tried to implement it, especially over the hard times, in our own home. I also was going to just share one little thing that I thought the children liked, and I know I liked, and that will be a memory maker for years to come. During some transition times and changes with the children's lives as they were young adults, I always appreciate hindsight, but you don't have hindsight on the front end of things. So it takes a while to build that up. And so what I started doing at the end of every year over Christmas, I always had some downtime and easily just went through social media on each of my kids' pages. And I just pulled a few timely moments, things that they had done over their lives. Did they get married? Did they have a child? Did they change jobs? Did they change careers? Did they move? And so just kind of these highlights of these moments over the years. And I did that for 5 years. And at the end of 5 years, I put it into a little old-fashioned PowerPoint. And at Christmas that year, so we had this little PowerPoint show of each person, and it was really interesting to see how they had affected their own lives over those 5 years. And then what I did when I had some time over the summer is I printed those into just some little booklets, really, and tucked them away for memory, a little snapshot in time. And yes, it did take 5 years to do it, but really, only some time once a year every 5 years. And I think that the future effect of it and the memories that they'll all have will really count long term going forward. So I hope maybe that'll give you a memory or a thought of something to do with your family, with your future, even with yourself. Especially if you're going through a hard time right now or a change and you think, oh my gosh, this is never going to change. I'm never going to get out of this situation. When will all my dreams come true? Well, start taking stock and take a snapshot of some moments in time and know one day you will see when all your dreams came true and you can look back and see the run up until when that timing did happen. You never know. Everything could change tomorrow. What do you really love about your home? I'm really interested. I hope that you'll share, message me, tell me some memory makers that you have, how to create home when it's been hard for you. And today I want to also give a shout out to a fabulous company. If you're getting your house ready to sell and you don't want to do the deep cleaning, you need some professional help, I have a great resource for you in Alberta, and it's called My Friend Anna. myfriendanna.ca, and she has a professional cleaning company. And I'll mention this. When everything goes good, it's great. And as long as things are easy, everybody's fine. In the perfect situations, everybody's perfect. But it's when the challenges come up, then you see people's true colors. And I will tell you, so my daughter hired my friend Anna's cleaning company, and we didn't really know of them before. As she tried them, they were great. The cleaning was fantastic, but she didn't sign up for the ongoing package, so she thought. And so this one day, she's sick. So that's on top of it. She was sick, lying on the couch, and a doorbell rings, and it's the cleaning company saying, "Oh, we're here for your monthly cleaning. You signed up for it." Well, my daughter was not feeling well. She was, of course, totally taken off guard. But the way that my friend Anna's cleaning company handled this was stellar. They didn't make her feel bad. They took everything into consideration. They put her in touch with the manager. The manager talked to her. Like, they could have definitely held her to the contract. It was her fault for not doing whatever she needed to do to not have them come back. They could have charged her the full amount, but they really, they were friendly. They were honestly just like her friend. How did this happen? What can we do to make it better? The girls came out there. They spent their time coming out there, but my daughter didn't need the cleaning. And they came to a mutually beneficial conclusion to the problem. And she was very thankful for that. And so I know that this cleaning company backs up what they say, that they are just like your friend, that they will treat you like a friend. And again, with my shout outs, I'm not getting paid for this. So it is a genuine recommendation for their service. So myfriendanna.ca, if you need professional cleaning anytime, highly recommend. And if you're looking for your happily ever after, listen, let me put you in your place once and for all. I would love to hear from you, and I'm here to help. My email is sue@suestyles.com, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.